After a neck-to-neck run, it seems Barack Obama is surging ahead. The latest reports coming in, one of the swing states, New Hampshire, going Barack Obama's way. And a big downer coming in for Mitt Romney there is the fact that he has lost Wisconsin. That is where his vice president was from. All right, get you incisive coverage. Let's cut across to Al Jazeera for further leads.
For this hour at this point. So if we add those to the running tally, the state of the race, look at that, dead heat, 162 each at the moment. That is confirmed projected wins, puts Barack Obama and Mitt Romney on 162 electoral college votes each. But as David was mentioning, we're watching Iowa and Nevada at the moment, and the reason I haven't mentioned them until this point is because they are actually too early to call. They are not even too close to call yet. So remembering Iowa here, Nevada here. They are grey. I don't often tell you about grey states on the map, but that's because they're too early to call, and we've got to watch them really closely. I hope to have an update for you in the next few minutes, David.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, Kamal. We are going to Boston. We are going to Chicago. These are not the headquarters of the campaigns of Messrs. Romney and Obama, but it is where their main teams are positioned tonight. Alan is with Romney at a lot of the Boston Convention Center, Patty in Chicago. And I want to ask you at this particular point, is there a change in the dynamics, in the mood of the people around you, as we see more and more states going blue, which will be cheering Mr. Obama and his team, and vice versa for Mr. Romney? Patty, you first.
Well, David, I can tell you that that theme song that we've been hearing every single stop along the campaign trail, they're starting to play that. The crowd has started to really filter in. The projections are on a big screen, and they are screaming. There is definitely a sense of momentum in this room. They think it's breaking exactly the way they prayed and hoped that it would. Really, Wisconsin is a very big deal for this campaign, and here's why. They've always said that it was going to be a close race, but they were very clearly banking on one thing. Ohio, well, three things really. Ohio, Wisconsin, Iowa. He keeps those, and he keeps his traditional Democratic states like Pennsylvania, then he wins a second term. So they're starting to see, from their perspective, the chips fall exactly how they were hoping they would. So there's definitely a sense of confidence building in this room. This song is, I think, probably the 195th time that I've heard it, but the fact that they're playing the campaign song shows that they're trying to get the crowd excited. They definitely feel that there's a sense of momentum, and it is breaking their way.
Patty, thanks very much. Alan Fisher in Boston. Too early for despondency, but I would imagine some of the wind has been taken out of the Romney camp sails.
Yeah, things are a bit quieter this end. They now realise that Ohio is vitally important if they're going to get their way to 270. They absolutely need to win there. And of course, the polls in the last few days were giving Barack Obama a lead in the state. And as we were hearing, some people in the Romney campaign in the last couple of hours were saying that they thought perhaps they'd lost Ohio. Nevada's an interesting one as well. The polls there have just closed. And I was with Mitt Romney when he made a campaign stop there after the third presidential debate in Florida. He flew straight to Nevada to hold a rally there. And on the very same day, a political operative who works with the Republican governor's office said that he thought Nevada had gone, that Barack Obama was going to win there. So that would make it another blue state for the Democrats. So the route to 270 is becoming increasingly difficult. Certainly the expand the electoral map strategy seems to have been blown out the water with the losses that have been announced in the last hour or so. So it is becoming harder for Mitt Romney. Remember, just a couple of hours ago, he arrived at the hotel next to the convention centre here saying he'd only written one speech, and that was a victory speech. They might be doing some rewriting now.
Alan, thanks very much indeed. One state that we haven't said very much about, even though it was the first one to appear on our list, is Virginia, one of the key swing states, won by Barack Obama back in 2008. That was the first time since 1964 it had gone to the Democratic Party. So let's bring in Donald McKeechin, Democratic State Senator from Virginia. Very good to have you on Al Jazeera, Mr. McKeechin. Tell me a little bit about what the key campaign issues have been in Virginia. The economy and defence, and of course those two are related, aren't they?
Absolutely. In Virginia, we've been blessed. Our unemployment rate has been below the national norm. We're running about 6%. In the northern Virginia suburbs, where we have a lot of government workers, that area typically goes blue. I'm happy to report that my county in central Virginia has gone blue. I think we're in for a big night here in Virginia. I'm certain that Tim Kaine's going to win, and I'm just as certain that the president will carry Virginia.
The Republicans want to spend more money on defence. Therefore, if you believe it's going blue, where do you believe they've failed in their campaign?
Well, you know, where they've failed is that they haven't put together a multiracial coalition, quite frankly. Their campaign does not look like Virginia. The president's put together a coalition of white folks and black folks, Asian folks and Hispanic folks. It's more representative of Virginia, and that's ultimately where the Republican Party has failed.
Senator, I'm going to introduce you to Jennifer Lovin, former chief White House correspondent for AP, who's got a question for you and can perhaps give you some of the insider information that she's getting as well.
Hi, Senator. Thank you for being on. It looks like, you know, of course, all the votes haven't been counted by any means in Virginia, and it still looks like it remains close. But there is a sizable percentage of the votes that are in, and looks like Governor Romney has a bit of an advantage. You said you were predicting an Obama win. What are you basing that on? What part of the state? And what do you think that the third-party candidate, Virgil Goode, what impact is he having on the race in Virginia?
I think his impact has been negligible. The last time I looked, which was probably about 15 minutes ago, there were still about 170 precincts in Northern Virginia that had yet to be reported. And of course, those are blue precincts. A little while ago, we had as many as 500 or 600 people in line still waiting to vote. So we have many, many precincts that are Democratic strongholds that have not yet been reported.
Interesting. Thank you.
Senator, just one more question. In terms of defense spending and the fact that the Republicans say they would increase it considerably, while the current U.S. president has been trimming here and trimming there, is there a greater malaise among the people of Virginia, perhaps, with what hasn't changed for them in the last 4 years? They expected their lives to get better, and it hasn't done that.
Well, I think the poll numbers suggest something different. Most Virginians believe that the economy is moving in the right direction. Most of the recent polls at least suggest that. Again, we've been a state that's been blessed because our unemployment levels have been lower than the national average. So I don't think that the fears that you suggest actually resonate with the Virginia public.
Senator McEachin, Donald McEachin, the Virginia State Senator, there talking to us from Richmond. We do not know the result there or the projected result. Thank you very much indeed, Senator. Let's bring in Kyle Downey, spokesman for the Romney campaign, joining us from Boston. Mr. Downey, thank you for being with us on Al Jazeera. It isn't looking good, is it? Wisconsin gone, Pennsylvania gone, New Hampshire gone. Mr. Romney's not got the start he wanted.
Look, just because the networks have called some of these states doesn't mean we're conceding them. It's far, far too early to call Wisconsin, for example. So we haven't conceded. We have not conceded those states. And, we'll continue to wait and see how these polls come in.
Because everybody's saying, the change of tactic of Mr. Romney to move his campaign into other parts of the United States, up there in and around that particular part, might have backfired on him here. I know you're saying you haven't given up yet, but the numbers aren't as encouraging as you would have liked.
Look, we're still waiting on Ohio, we're still waiting on Virginia, we're still waiting on North Carolina, we're still waiting on Florida. So, just because the networks are sowing doubt does not mean that you should buy it. So we still, we're patient, we're moving forward. There are a whole lot of counts, a whole lot of votes that still need to be counted. So we'll continue to be hopeful until we have reason not to be.
A particular tactic of mine, Mr. Downey, here is to bring in the brighter, sharper minds. Jason Johnson here, professor at an Ohio university. I would like to ask you a question which I probably would never have thought of.
A quick question here, and this is very key. What do you think your campaign is going to have to do to actually win Ohio? What are the areas where you see right now that you have a chance to pull off the state? Because the polls have not been friendly towards Romney, but I can understand you're saying that's still your last-ditch chance. So what part of the state do you think you're going to overperform or Obama will underperform that will allow Romney to win Ohio?
Well, look, Ohio is a very big state, and you know, there's all sorts of different ways that we can win the state. But overall, our economic message has been penetrating through, and Rob Portman, my old boss, has been working things very hard. And again, we remain very confident that we'll win the state.
It was Rob Portman, wasn't it, Mr. Downey, who said it's going to be tough if we don't win Ohio. Very, very tough indeed. So if you lose that state, is that it?
No, I mean, it certainly is the traditional road to the White House for a Republican nominee, but this year it's not the only road. So we'll continue to watch as the numbers come in.
Carl Downey, we appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. It's one of those moments when I'm told to go to Kamal Santa Maria, and I look to my left and I can't see him, and I look to my right and I can't see him, and that means he's lurking somewhere back there.
Yeah, hi. Where are we? We're at the map. We're going to talk about swing states right now. Let's color up the map as it stands right now. Lots of red here. It looks, again, just to point out, the map can be deceptive. It doesn't look like Barack Obama's won as many states, but remember how many smaller states there are clustered up here. And then we've got our yellow states, our two close to call, and I want to focus in on Florida, Florida, Florida. Come down here. We're going to talk about the numbers because it is so tight there at the moment. I think we're looking about 85% of precincts reporting, and the split is 20,000 votes. 20,000 popular votes split Barack Obama and Mitt Romney in Florida. 29 electoral college votes, and that is 2 more than previously. It used to be 27, which was the nice round 10% of what was needed out of the 270. It's worth even more now at 29 electoral college votes. And while we're talking about it, it's worth thinking about a bit of history as well. If we've got the state profile to bring up of Florida, just to think about a bit of recent history. This was Obama's win in 2008, 51% to 48. George W. Bush much better in 2004, but I don't need to talk about this one, but I'm going to anyway. 2000, 537 votes separated George W. Bush and Al Gore in 2000. That tells you the story of Florida, of how tight it can get. It's not that tight at the moment. It's 20,000 votes with 85% of precincts reporting. It is very, very tight in the South. David.
Kamal, thanks very much indeed. Florida, Florida. Not just Ohio, but, I mean, once again, here we have.
Well, basically at this point, there are 4 states that are incredibly close. Florida, Ohio, North Carolina, and Virginia. Given the way things have gone, Mitt Romney has to win all 4 of those states, incredibly close states, in order to win. If he loses any of them, President Obama will be reelected. And what's been amazing about tonight is that every single close race...
Sorry, I have to butt in there because Mr. Romney's spokesman there was saying earlier on, look, you know, Wisconsin hasn't got...
Yeah, assuming that the projections that that you've been reporting are correct. Assuming. And there's only one time in the last 50 years when a network projected a state and then had to retract it, which was the famous Florida case in 2000. So I think a rational person assumes that these projections are accurate. Assuming that, essentially looking at a situation where Mitt Romney has to sweep the table for all the remaining states that are on the table, and the close races tonight have almost unanimously, if not unanimously, gone into the Democratic column. So you see his demeanor, and it's understandable why he's as dour
I wasn't
as he
able
is.
to do the maths just then, but I mean, in terms of the difference in Florida in numbers for the two, it's incredibly close.
But look,
if it were within a certain margin, would there be a recount?
Only if it looks like
it's all computerized now.
Yeah. Only if it was close in a bunch of other places. I think the issue though is that Mitt Romney had actually been leading in Florida in quite a few polls. So the fact that he's down by 20,000 and the count isn't even done in some of the major Democratic counties like Miami-Dade, that's not a good sign for Mitt Romney, in all honesty, not at this point in the evening.
Also, if the Romney camp has sort of written off Ohio, which is what we've been hearing all night, that they're assuming that they're going to lose Ohio, I think with the way that the map will stack up when some of the certain blue states like California start to come in and add on to Obama's tally, if he were to take Ohio, Florida, frankly, doesn't matter. Recount or no, close or no, Florida is no longer an issue.
Do you want to hear what Andy Gallagher, our man down in Tampa's got to say? Hi again, Andy. 20,000, I think the figure is at the moment, the difference between the two. But as our guests here were pointing out, Miami-Dade hasn't reported yet a Democratic stronghold. What sort of sense are you getting down there?
Well, I just think it's so close to call. 20,000 votes in a state like this. Remember, this is a very large and diverse state with 29 electoral college votes at stake. It's incredible at this point of the night that it is still that close. But, of course, those states, particularly like Miami-Dade, when their count comes in from there, it could change everything. Both candidates watching this state extremely closely. This is very, very important. And we've spent the last few days traveling across the Interstate 4 highway, reporting all the way along, meeting all the different kinds of voters. That's what makes this state so important. It's so diverse. And really along the way, I think, David, one of the big lessons I learned is that you can't presume when meeting people who they voted for. I've met a lot of African Americans who are voting for Mitt Romney this time around. They voted for Barack Obama last time. I've met Latinos who are also voting for Governor Romney. It's so tight. People are so divided. You can't assume that anyone here is voting a particular way. But I think most surprising of all are the independent voters we've met along the way. Those people torn between these two candidates. On the one hand, the economy is the biggest thing on their minds, so they like what they hear from Governor Romney. But on the other hand, when it comes to things like immigration and women's rights, they like what the president says. And literally one of the voters that we featured in one of our pieces, who was an independent or swing voter, didn't make his mind up until yesterday. And they're just the 2 to 3% of people that could really swing this election. So I think this election right now is focusing in on the Sunshine State. Everybody watching as these results roll in, and I think both parties, you can only imagine counties.
Andy? But though, of course, we will see both Governor Romney and President Obama a little bit later on. Each one of them more than likely going to make one a valedictory speech, the other one a concessionary speech. That is, of course, unless it goes to a tie, and it isn't going to go to a tie. And Andy Gallagher there. This is Chicago, and somewhere in there is Patty. You can see her there down the bottom. There she is, wearing the big red jacket. And the numbers starting to swell, and the noise too.
Exactly right, David. I hope you're not looking from back there, because that's a no-no. Yeah, the crowd's getting very excited because although I just heard the spokesman for the Romney campaign say that they're not conceding Wisconsin, I think the Obama campaign feels pretty good about the fact that they've likely won that state. Truly, if you're a student of history when it comes to the media and elections, they're very careful now. Over the last couple of elections, there were some mistakes, so you don't normally see domestic media make projections unless they're pretty sure they've got it right. The Obama camp was always very confident when it came to Wisconsin. They felt like the demographics helped them there. We saw the president spend a lot of time there. Again, this is their Midwestern firewall. They believe that it's holding up. And it's Wisconsin, Iowa, where the president's been doing much better in the polls than Governor Romney. They have a huge get-out-the-vote effort there. And, of course, Ohio. Again, it all comes down to Ohio. Even without Ohio, though, they're feeling pretty good about Colorado. Right now, I can tell you, in this hall, the music is starting to blast. We've seen intermittent videos with Barack Obama, but they really do feel like it's breaking their way.
Where is the president right now?
he is at his home in Hyde Park, just a couple of blocks away. Truthfully, Barack Obama hasn't spent very much time in Chicago. I think I'm trying to remember just a handful of days. So when he came back just after midnight on Tuesday, went to his home. His daughters flew in just today with their grandmother after school because he made them go to school today, even though most of the kids in the country didn't have to because their schools are used as polling places. He's having dinner with just family, really, and the staff tells me he's going to be watching most of the results there with just his immediate family members. And then he's going to a nearby hotel where the vice president is waiting. His family's there. The most senior staff members are there watching the results come in. I can tell you that Barack Obama has 2 speeches written. I know Governor Romney's put out there that he only has the victory speech, but the Obama campaign says they have a concession speech just in case, and a victory speech, because I can tell you, going into this moment, nobody knew how it was going to turn out. But I've been talking to a lot of people behind the scenes, and they're smiling a lot more, David, if that tells you anything.
Patty, thanks very much.